Alright, so this is just We the People News, okay? This video is without prejudice and or without recourse, okay? On this particular video, y'all, it's a learning video. However, I'm going to stand arm length, okay? If you guys don't know what that is, look it up in law definition, okay? You can use it in court, by the way, okay? So arm length, and that's exactly what I'm doing with this video. I do not have enough knowledge to know if this is true or facts. Okay? This is for y'all to decide one way or the other. For me, I never look straight forward. I always look around me to be able to protect myself by any means necessary. So if this can protect me, then I want to know it. Okay? There we go again. Alright, let's proceed forward. This is a long video.
Right, as stated earlier, I said that I would make a video about CPS, and this information may help you along your journey. Understand that child is a definition for chattel paperwork in the Admiralty administrative side of the public. So chattel is nothing more than a security. A child is nothing more than chattel paperwork that can be bought or sold. Okay. Nothing the administrative side can do can affect the people. All right. They don't have dominion over you. They didn't create you. They can't give you orders. They can't compel you to do what you don't want to do. That would be slavery. That would violate the Treaty of Ghent. It would also violate the palpables, which were issued by the Pope. As you guys know, or maybe you're not familiar with, the Pope is the only man in the world that can create a law on a whim. It requires no legislation. It becomes effective as soon as they sign it, and it instantaneously becomes law. All right. In order to understand why that is, you have to go all the way back to the Unum Sanctum, the Trilogy of Palpables, the crown transferring from England to Spain back to London. You have to understand the history of how that came to be about. But essentially, the Catholic diocese, the Roman Vatican, is not a saint by any way, shape, or form of the means, and they are all military operations. You don't believe me? They have a vicar general, just like your police officers go by chief, commander, lieutenant. It's all a military operation, all right? And the sooner you learn that, the better off you will be. Okay, so I'm giving you the proper tools and tactics to utilize to ascend of the mind to help your fellow brothers and sisters in your community come up out of her like the good Lord has instructed us. Thank you, honey. I appreciate that. I need really hot coffee, so my voice isn't going to last very long. With that said, my extensive studies have taken me into ecclesiastical law, canon law, Roman civil law, law of merchants. It's taken me into treaties and a number of other forms of what people perceive to be law. And if you subject yourself to that, who am I to say otherwise? Life is what you make of it, and you have free will. I'm not here to change your will. Not even the Heavenly Father will attempt to change your will. Your will is yours. He gave it to you for a reason, and you can choose the path that best suits you in this life. I will point this out to you. 1 Timothy section 9 lays it all out, who the law of the Pharisees, Roman civil law, was made for. All right, and if you fall into that category, then perhaps you should adhere to the law created by man if you have or lack a moral compass and do not comprehend the difference between wrong and right because it was not written on your heart. I won't say that you're a son of Satan or anything like that, but if you don't have a good moral fiber and a moral compass, then the law of man was definitely written for you. It doesn't mean that you can't come up out of her eventually when you ascend of the mind, all right? Not all of us grow or have the same lifestyle or trajectory or path. Some of us find it later in life. I've seen men that are 50 years old that are still 16-year-old boys for all intents and purposes, mentally, as far as that's concerned, and spiritually. I've also seen 12-year-old kids that are very enlightened and have taught me things that I could have never imagined. And again, they're 12. So take that for what it's worth, all right? So tonight we're going to bust into CPS. They're engaged in human trafficking, the violation of Executive Order 13818, 13903, okay, human trafficking. That's under military executive order by the commander-in-chief, all right, in a military operation. On the common law side of things, thou shalt not take property that does not belong to them. That includes your offspring, okay? So let's move forward here. We're going to talk about the authentication of a title, which is in commercial law, okay? And we find that in the UCC, UCC 9-102 to be specific. If you're following along on a different device and you have access to a computer, you can go ahead and look up UCC 9-102 and then look up the definition for authentication. Authentication means to adopt a record, all right? You can't adopt that record if that record has not been abandoned. Well, it just so happens that you can adopt the birth certificate record, all right? You did not create that record, however, that record has been abandoned. Nobody told you how to do a proper birth return. We didn't follow the king and queens and what their heirs do prior to their offspring being born, which is a announcement to the public and the people, letting everybody know that we're bringing offspring in. Instead, due to our negligence and lack of knowledge, we allow the hospital administrator to announce the birth of an offspring, okay, and we don't actually claim our own. So the infant is abandoned at the hospital. The child is, of course, chattel paper to be bought and sold at will, and then the baby goes home with mom. Now, we can do the Holy Trinity, if you like, to look at it in that way, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We can join all those back together into one, and we can claim those, all right? Men make claims, corporations file complaints. Be a man, make a claim. Claim your offspring. You can do that in the paper by giving public announcement for 4 consecutive weeks, getting an authentication of publication, recording it in your local county, and letting them know, hey, I have offspring. I sired offspring. I planted the seed, and a 9-month gestation period occurred where the woman was the trustee, and upon full gestation, the security was birthed and given properly back to me upon maturity. All right, so that offspring is yours. Anyway, this is the authentication process for you and your kid's birth certificate, all right, and offspring's birth certificate, because kids is what goats have, all right. To truly own something, you must have the title in your name and have it authenticated and have it recorded on the public record, all right. Everything's about a record. Your private record supersedes any record they, being the government or the hospital or administrators or trustees, creates. Why? You're the only one that can testify with first-hand knowledge to the veracity, under the pains and penalties of perjury, of that record being authentic. You can verify that record, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Which you do by taking said title to the county recorder's office or mailing it to them and telling them you would like said title and deed, which is real private property, registered by have them record it, all right? Now, you can keep your private record on the private side if you like. You can record it in the public if you like. I tend to record a record at the Register of Deeds versus filing it or whatever, and I record on demand. There is no issue here. If you're going to get flack for recording it online, all you have to simply do is attach or allonge an affidavit to it under the pains and penalties of perjury, and make sure that it's a garrote that is utilized with the notary. Yes, Keith, I'm a little under the weather, my brother, but thank you for caring about my spell of illness. One maximum of law is that anything that can be proven must be proven, all right? But there are things that are self-evident, okay? If you do have your and your offspring's title authenticated, which would be the birth certificate, okay? It's evidence of an event, okay? It's also a bill of lading, it's a warehouse certificate, it's evidence of a very, very large debt due and owing to you and your family, okay? And remember, a small debt creates a debtor, a large debt creates an enemy. It's no wonder they consider us enemies of the United States, okay? If you do not have your offspring's title authenticated, you have not proven the highest degree possible that you do, in fact, own that title. Now, a while back, Mr. Anonymous told me, Derek, you spend a lot of time arguing around title and not arguing through title. If you argue through title, you will find that you won't meet much resistance. It took me a long time to understand what he was telling me, okay? I didn't have the proper documentation in place, and what I was doing was arguing around title, trying to avoid it instead of arguing through it, saying, here's my proof of claim, where the fuck is yours, all right? Until you do so, the state claims ownership of your title and your kid's title, which allows them to put you in jail or take your kids away, etc. When you own the title by placing an authenticated copy with a few other documents, go over more below, on the public record by having them recorded at the county recorder's office, it takes you and your offspring out of the federal jurisdiction. The federal jurisdiction, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very, very clear about this, is the federal enclaves. We find this in Title 28, 3002, 15A. It also is explained in Title 26, the jurisdiction thereof for taxation. And it always purports and ties back to you, which is under Title 22 CFR, which is found in the District of Columbia. Understand this, the Zone Improvement Project number is copywritten and trademarked by the DoD, the U.S. Military, Department of Defense, and by using it, you are engaging in infringement on copywritten, trademarked property. Okay, nobody ever taught you that in school. It's kind of a way of entrapment, really. But the lot, block, parcel ID number, zone improvement project number, and address all belong to different entities. Okay, those entities sometimes are the municipality, sometimes it's the state, other times it is the DoD. Be very mindful of that. And to prove my point, if you read in to Title 15, 1601 through 1693, you will clearly see it outlined where they make the distinction between an abode and an address, a resident and a man or woman, okay? A natural person, if you will. I don't want you to get confused in the legalese. The natural person is the highest capacity that one can operate through in commerce, okay? It's a legal thing. So, we're talking about federal jurisdiction, we're talking about the use of the address, which means that you're operating either a registered or unregistered corporation at a certain location, and by doing so, you fall subject to the federal jurisdiction, which is under Title 28, 3002, 15A, a federal corporation, which gives the legislator the ability to pass down edicts and all this other shit to you because you are a volunteer employee unbeknownst to you. Which means you go on the do not detain list, and so does your kids, your offspring, and the state knows you have registered your title, which is your authenticated birth certificate, and that title is your citizenship. Let's talk about citizenship for a minute. When we distinguish the difference between public and private, we are men, okay? In the public, we have these things called persons. And I have many juristic persons, all right? I have one from when my folks first enrolled me into grade school, right? That juristic person utilized my mother utilized an application that manifested a new juristic person that paid from the estate, from that juristic person, the Social Security number, combined with the birth certificate estate number, created a new juristic person into the economy. And that's why the Fourth Amendment is so important. You have the right to be secured and paid, births, houses, persons, and effects, all right? So when you understand that by filling out applications, you're actually creating new juristic persons, okay? The birth certificate, again, is just chattel. It's nothing more than a security, a bill of lading, a vessel for transporting or passing title through or on. It is a person for all intents and purposes that you get to engage in commerce with, because a man cannot touch commerce naked. It does not work that way, okay? Which means you get to go on the do not detain list. Whether or not the do not detain list is valid, I've seen some things that lead me to believe that it is true, correct, and accurate. Nevertheless, if you operate as a man, you're already on the do not touch list. They don't like to be touched where it feels funny, and a man can most certainly touch public officials where they don't like to be touched, okay? So, food for thought. And so does your kids, and the state knows you have registered your title, which is your authenticated birth certificate, and the title is your citizenship and your kid's citizenship, okay? It's not actually pertaining to you, it's pertaining to the person for which you have control over, okay? The person's citizenship changes, all right? It is your piece on the game board of life that they granted to you. Now, why did they have to grant this game piece to you? When we start to look at the Township Maternity Act of 1921, we look at the Federal Reserve Banking Act of 1913, the Trading with the Enemy Act, we start to realize what the Reconstruction Act of 1871 was all about. When we comprehend the definition of constitutor, we understand that that's to roll debt from one entity to another or to pay a debt. For all intents and purposes, the first charter was rendered bankrupt, okay? So they had to roll it over to a new entity in 1871, and in doing so, they had to provide a remedy to we the people, because the republic still exists. There's a democracy, and then there's a republic. Just a little bit of history, every democracy throughout the tolling of time has always failed miserably. It's always went down in a ball of flaming, heaping pile of shit. And once it collapses, what happens is an oligarchy where the few tried to lord over the many, and they end up getting their throats slit and beheaded for human trafficking and fucking over the people of the world. All right, so this is a global issue, not so much just a centralized issue in the Republic of the United States of America. It's important to understand that there are two different entities at work here, both of them running simultaneously, and you have the option of choosing which one you are going to operate in. And when you operate in the opposing side, which would be commerce versus the private side, you actually have the benefit of being able to put your foot down and tell them to fuck off, all right? What people call a normal citizen are actually legal fictions, and as a legal fiction, which is a person, they have no claim to human rights or the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution is really a corporate construct. It's a corporate charter. Even when we look back in history and we're looking at, per se, the, oh goodness, I'm going to draw a blank here. Forgive me, I've been a little under the weather, so my brain's not quite functioning at the normal capacity. But every country has its own corporate charter, okay? And every country actually has its own republic. There's a Republic of China, there's a Republic of Russia, there's the Republic of the USSR, there's the Republic of Bosnia, for fuck's sake, okay? So the Constitution is a corporate charter, and then, of course, there's the Republic, which is the people. Shocking, I know, but once you register your title, once you register your title, this is so piss poorly written. You, the living man, the real man, citizen with claim to human rights and the Constitution, but you can't have that until you register that title, that citizenship, that authenticated birth certificate, that game piece, all right? The game piece that we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is the person, and getting your hands on it and being able to lay claim to it and utilizing that person, because it's really just a game of fucking Monopoly. All right, so when you understand and you can distinguish the difference between your person and you as a man, okay, then you can understand how you can utilize these pieces to benefit you. When somebody's making a claim against your estate, your person, and the Fourth Amendment is very clear that you have a right to be securing your house's papers, persons, and effects, then you get to say by what authority are you utilizing this private intellectual property and information. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to point out to you is so nicely and eloquently pointed out right here. okay, when we're starting to talk about identity theft. The determination of finance charges is what we go into here, but let me see if I have identity theft on here as well. Let me see. Enforcement agencies. Oh, where are you at? Control F. Let's go identity. No, it's not going to let me do it. That's why I'm on the wrong one. That's all mortgages and shit. Definition, creditor, term, card holder. Hold on. Identity theft's going to be in here somewhere. Dwelling means a residential structure or mobile home which contains one of the 4 family housing units. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm in the wrong section of the FDIC. Anyway, in the FDIC it talks about identity theft. And it's a really nice explanation of what constitutes identity theft. All right, so in CPS, when they are using your private intellectual property, your person, without your written consent, they're engaged in identity theft. This includes your fingerprints, your photographs, your butthole prints, your thumbprints, you name it. All right. How do I claim supreme title of my deed? Well, let's get into that. So, it's your game piece, all right? The authentication, if you look up UCC 9-102, authentication is to adopt a record, all right? If you adopt the record, you can prove that you have superior interest in said title, and now you can argue through title. Okay, what I mean by that is you're going to ask them where they got the power of attorney to use said entity when you hold perfected title in your hand, okay? You must realize you and your offspring are not citizens, but rather you and your offspring have a citizenship. That's the person you control. That's the game piece on the board, which you can use or not whenever you want, but until you claim it by putting it on the public record, the state thinks they still own it as their private property. And it's not the fact that they still own it, ladies and gentlemen. They are claiming that they are the trustee and they have the ability to control it for the benefit of the beneficiary who is unknown, unnamed at this point in time, okay? So, you see, the only power the state has is the power you consent to giving it. If you don't want the state to have that power over you, then all you have to do is claim it. Get the title authenticated and put it on the public record, then you can enter the recording number for your files, which the county recorder's office will give you, and enter the recording number into the CPS case to show them that your kids are, or your offspring are, your private property, and by God, they better give you back your private property, because now if they don't, you can sue their asses off for stealing your private property, engaging in identity theft, ladies and gentlemen, okay? You're now holding title. Possession is 9/10 of the law. What nobody ever really talks about is that other pesky 10th, and how important that other pesky 10th really is. And that other pesky 10th, ladies and gentlemen, is fucking title. All right? What evidence do we have of the title? Well, we have now authenticated and adopted that record. And they are using that private intellectual record, that property that we have now authenticated and adopted without our written motherfucking consent. They don't have power of attorney to utilize said private intellectual property that we have adopted and that the United States government has given full faith and credit to, both on the state and the federal level. All right? You can prove it's your property, and I hate using private property because an adjective before the noun always diminishes the noun, and the real issue before us is property. Okay, private property diminishes property. In the Constitution, you see you have the right of property, not private property, but property. So we want to use the same language and lingo that's in the charter, all right, with your recording number, which will show the authenticated BC, and the state will never challenge that. Why? Because it's legal evidence of the fucking law. The state will never show a title to your offspring and claim they are their property, because that would be slavery. So another question you can ask is, does the state register people as property? Yes or no? That's a simple question for what we call interrogatories during discovery. Yes or no? Does the state register people as property? Yes or no? They will never say yes, because that would violate the Treaty of Ghent. It would go against the palpables in the 1500s by the Roman Curia, the Roman Church, okay? Which, mind you, there's no separation between church and state, because all the magistrates, all the judges in every state constitution are bound by canon laws, all right? So there is no fucking separation between church and state, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fucking fallacy, all right? And if there was a separation between church and state, the damn magistrates, alleged judges, wouldn't be using canon law, all right? It will never happen. It's game over for this at this point. They have no choice but to give you back your private property. And again, we want to stick away from private, because private is an adjective which diminishes the actual noun in the subject matter, which is the property. How do we prove that your offspring is property? Well, ladies and gentlemen, they have your DNA. And your DNA is particular to you and is your property, all right? More so than anything, it's the property of the Heavenly Father bestowed upon you, put in a trust relationship to help you grow mentally, spiritually, and physically, to teach you patience, to teach you how to deal with sorrow, happiness, and all these other floods of emotions. Maybe to lead by example when prior to having your offspring, you didn't lead the best life, but after you had that gracious gift from the Heavenly Father bestowed upon you, you had a change of heart, because you didn't want your offspring to go through the same trials and tribulations you once went through. All right, so that property that's bestowed upon you is bestowed upon you in trust by the Heavenly Father to make sure that you have an opportunity, perhaps maybe to redeem yourself or to look at life in a different way, all right? And these people have no right to come in and take your property, absent a victim, absent a crime, alleging and purporting that somehow they know what's best for you and your family, all right? Government has never done anything that they first didn't have to rob Peter to pay motherfucking Paul. They're the largest human traffickers in the fucking world, all right? So, you should authenticate all of your titles to anything you want to own, okay? Ownership comes with liability. That's why we manifest trust into existence, and we pass title into the trust, and then we don't own anything. We just control it all. And then when we die, it doesn't go into probate, where the lying, looting, pandering fucking vultures known as lawyers can fucking fleece the estate, right? It never goes into probate if it's in trust. Simply the new trustee steps forward, which may be your daughter, your grandmother, your dad, your cousin, your auntie, your whatever it is, steps up as trustee, and there's no inheritance tax, ladies and gentlemen. This is how the wealthy continue to amass wealth throughout generations and leave their heirs and assigns, continuing to live a wonderful lifestyle. And you yourself have this ability as well. House, cars, boats, pets, kids, certificates of title, birth certificate, and certificate of live birth. Now, when we're going to talk about automobiles, ladies and gentlemen, automobiles come with a manufacturer's certificate of origin. If you did not receive that, they cheated you at the dealership, all right? They are in breach of contract, just like the title insurance company is in breach of contract when they told you that your lot, block, parcel ID number, zone improvement project number, real estate and property was free from levy and without any financial constraint on it. They fucking lied. All right, there's a super top secret lien mortgage on every real estate, property, house, car, boat, truck, duck. Don't give a fuck what it is. There's a mortgage on it, all right? And a mortgage means that somebody else has a superior interest in said property, which means that there's no fucking way in hell it was free and clear, and that's why you pay taxes. If you do not do this, then you are not the true owner. You are instead more along the lines of a caretaker for a time, a tenant, if you will. Okay, with state retaining the title of true ownership, they remain the title owners to everything until you have the title double authenticated to become the true owner and holder in due course. All right, step.
All right, so now you understand the reason why I'm keeping arm length. This is up to y'all to decide. I'm just kind of doing research and I'm recording it, so bits and pieces of it for my benefit, because I cannot do this hours at a time. So I'm cutting it down in sections. Alrighty, and off to the next one. Peace with People News.